With the crypto market seeing falls over the last 2 months and there being extreme fear in the market being followed by loads of uncertainty, a lot of people are asking themselves the question, is now the time to be buying cryptocurrencies? You hear the quote go all the time where people say, buy when others are fearful, sell when others are greedy. And it starts to spark this idea that maybe whenever the markets are down, this is the best time to be buying. I mean, whenever you look at history, right? Whenever we see these falls, these have proven to be opportunities that can change people's lives. But you start to beg the question and you start to have this doubt and this questionability every single time that we see a fall in the present, because even though in hindsight we see that it's led to growth, we always question, will it lead to growth this time? And so in today's video, I want to take a little bit of a look at if we should or should not be buying cryptos right now, in my opinion, now that we are seeing a nice little breakout from Bitcoin's price, and what I'm expecting going in the future and how exactly I'm playing it. So with that being said, of course, let's go ahead and let's get straight into today's video. In today's video, we are going to solely be focused more on the Bitcoin charts. Now, the reason that I'm doing that is because there are times in history in which we will see that Bitcoin has supreme control over the rest of the market. When Bitcoin's up, the market's up. When Bitcoin's down, the market's down. Now, there are times, of course, whenever we would see some of these highs getting put in, especially back here, to the beginning of this year, in which Bitcoin won't be doing much and the rest of the market will absolutely be taking off. That's usually going to be partnered with something on Bitcoin dominance that looks pretty similar to this, where Bitcoin's staying neutral, but the rest of the alts are absolutely exploding, leading Bitcoin dominance to just get smashed. But when we see these moments in which we see Bitcoin dominance kind of consolidating and not doing too much, Bitcoin is typically in control of the market. And so what we need to be focused on right now is, although it is good to look at individual charts, although it is good to look at the Solana charts or the Mana charts or the Sand charts, it is even more important to be looking at the Bitcoin charts, because this is how we gauge what the rest of the market's going to do. Because we can see, maybe a little breakout from a crypto on its own individual charts, but if Bitcoin starts to roll right now, likelihood is that crypto is rolling with it. So there's a few things that I'm looking at on the Bitcoin charts right now for me to start buying cryptocurrencies. My answer in short is that right now, unless you are doing some type of accumulation where you buy the same amount of crypto every single week on the same day or something of that nature, if that's not you, likelihood is right now is probably not the time just yet to be buying cryptocurrencies. Now, although there definitely 100% can be massive growth right around the corner, and that could lead, a buy now could lead to some massive growth, a buy right now is still not out of the woods from seeing some type of pullback to the low 40,000s from Bitcoin, which will of course pull the rest of our altcoins down 10-15%. And so what I'm looking for today is I'm going to talk about what confirmations there are left that tell me that the likelihood is that momentum has swung in terms of probability to the bulls, that we will continue an uptrend, and that any buys made at this point will more likely than not see growth. So what we've been tracking over the last couple of days has of course been this descending wedge in which we were in. Now there was two key levels of resistance in which we were paying attention to. Level of resistance number one was of course going to be our macro trend that we've established since the beginning of November. We've come up to touch this level multiple times, and it was a pretty clear level of resistance. Now typically speaking, when we have these macro levels of resistance, the moment that we clear them, we tend to see some pretty solid growth. We've seen that back here. Of course, whenever we had this macro level, let's go ahead and just do something like that. You can see that once we got the breakout, that was the first sign that we were going to continue upwards. We of course did see it here as well. And so of course, one of the biggest things that you look for is the clearing of the macro trend. Now, in the process of clearing this macro trend, as we have currently, we've not got the daily close just yet. There's still a few hours left, but we're looking to hold above it. We've also seen the breakout from this descending wedge in which we've been in coming off of this wick. Now, generally speaking, the reason that I wanted to go ahead and say that now may not be the exact time to be buying cryptos is because we are still at the risk of seeing a pullback towards $42,000. The reason I say that is because throughout history, we will see time and time again that Bitcoin's price will have a massive shakeout, a recovery, and then a trickle back down to near the levels in which we put in the bottom of the wick. It happens almost every single time. One of the most recent examples was here. We saw the crash, we saw the wick, we saw the recovery, the trickle down to that same level, before eventually seeing more of a continuous fall. But even if we look at this thing when we're in uptrends, right before these uptrends continue, look what we see. The downtrend, the wick, the trickle, all the way right back towards this area before seeing the continuation to the upside. Now, even if we look at something like this, again, whenever we started to find the bottom this summer, boom, huge wick to the downside, recovery, trickle down right around this area before eventually seeing that continuation to the upside. And so at this point, we are still at risk of seeing a continuation back towards the low $43,000 to $42,000 range. That is simply still on the table. Do I think it's going to happen? I think it's getting less likely now that we've seen a breakout to the upside that will happen, but it is definitely within the realm of possibility. And so the way in which we're going to start to get away from that possibility, the way in which we're going to start to get away from the thought that we're going to fall, maybe another 10-15%, will be through the clearing of three important levels. Let's go ahead and let's lay these levels out. Now, level number one for me is going to be working our way back above let's go ahead and get this pulled up, the 20 simple moving average on the daily charts, okay? One thing we can see is that over history, as we start to enter into these downtrends, if we simply just clear off the charts here, this 20 simple moving average, which of course runs and is the basis of our Bollinger Bands, we can see that we come up to touch it before continuing to the downside. We come up to touch it before continuing to the downside. And as you can see, when we are working our way up and we're in nice uptrends, this is a key level that will generally hold as support until we are going into some type of continuous downtrend. Even looking at more of a long-term growth pattern, you can see how this thing plays out, in which whenever we hold it, we're doing well. When we start to lose it like this, we may go into a little bit of a downtrend and we need to recover it. Once we recover it, that's when we're able to continue. We just need to be holding this in order for us to see an uptrend. And so at the moment, until we're able to recapture it, this is a fantastic example. Look at this resistance, pushing us down. We recapture it, boom. Now we start to work our way up. So what I'm looking for at this exact moment is, can we get it back above the 20 simple moving average on the daily charts that is currently looking at about $49,000. Now, in the instance in which we're able to do that, I am under the belief, let's go ahead and just Control Z all the way. There we go. One thing we can expect is that at that point, we will have fully confirmed a breakout from both our macro trend and our short-term downtrend as well. All three of those clearings, clearing number one, clearing number two, and then the clearing of this 20 simple moving average will be very, very strong confirmations to me that, okay, this thing very possibly is working its way back to the top side. Now, the last thing that I'm going to need to see, remember, option number one is that we get a daily close above these two key levels of resistance. Thing number two that we need to do is get it back above this 20 simple moving average on the daily charts. From there, the final thing that I like to see is that we're able to get back above $52,000 to $53,000. That is the final confirmation to me that we're likely reversing. We're working our way back up. The downtrend is likely broken, and we are probably out of the woods from seeing this push back towards $40,000. The reason that this will serve as so important is because it finally starts to have us setting higher highs on more of a midterm scale. As you can see, throughout this downtrend, we've set a high, a lower high, we set a lower high, and now we're still looking to put in something significant. And if we're able to see the reversal here and we work our way towards $53,000 to set this new higher high, that is the biggest confirmation that this downtrend in which we've been in very likely is coming to an end, and we can look to start to see some growth and some return back to the top side, especially as we are starting to see some of these higher lows get put in. Now, not only that, that's not the only reason that's going to serve as significant. One of the other reasons that this is going to serve as so significant is due to the fact that will then confirm a reversal on this bottom side here and confirm this as a low. Now, if this is confirmed as a low, we will have what's called a bullish divergence on the Bitcoin charts, in which we put in a low, a higher low, if that does get confirmed up to the top side, but on the RSI, we see a low and a lower low. In this example, considering the fact that this secondary low was placed at 30, which is considered quote-unquote oversold territory, that means that there is an extreme amount of potential to the upside for growth on our RSI, mixed in with the ability for us to see some type of substantial higher high get set. Typically speaking, when we see this level of bullish divergence, especially below 50, and better that we're close to 30 on the RSI, we can see a new all-time high get set that was established in between the previous lows, which puts it here, right? So this high can very possibly get broken if we're able to see that reversal to the top side. Now, whenever we consider this thing, we have to understand that until we see these confirmations, until we see those three steps, the breaking of the trend, the clearing of the 20 simple moving average, and then the clearing of $53,000, we have to understand that at any given point, we can still continue back down towards the bottom side of this wick, because that's what Bitcoin has a tendency to do. So I wouldn't personally be buying any cryptos or doing too much buying on any of my major alts until we can start to get those confirmations, because in the event in which we see Bitcoin's price start to crash, it will more than likely pull the rest of the market down with it. So that's my answer to the question of should we be buying cryptocurrencies right now? I personally think it'd be best to wait for some more confirmations that this downtrend is coming to an end. Because if that is the case, and if we do start to see the breaking of all of these trends and the clearing of all these confirmation levels, likelihood is at that point making some entries nearly guarantees you some pretty substantial growth based off of what we've seen in history. And so with that being said, of course, I will continue to update you guys as this does play out. I'm not just going to leave you in the woods. I want you guys to just pay very close attention to how all of this does structure out and practice your patience. Patience in crypto is sometimes one of the best assets that you can possibly have outside of owning some good old Avalanche or something like that, of course. But with that being said, of course, I hope you guys did enjoy today's video, and I hope you guys do enjoy those videos where I kind of talk a little bit more about the fundamentals and how I go about things, and a little bit less of looking too hard into individual cryptos. So if that is the case, please do let me know, of course, down in the comment section, or you can simply just let me know by pressing that like button. But with that being said, of course, I will see you all next time. Peace.